Hello, everybody. We are live with Real Producers today in the Colleyville Studio USA, and we have a wonderful guest with us today, Scott Peak Photography, who is one of our precious and beautiful vetted business partners. And so we love you, Scott. He makes everybody look amazing in the publication and does outstanding photography work. And besides, we just love Scott. So
beautiful is a big word, so I have to live up to that now.
Handsome, beautiful, remarkable.
It's a big word.
Lots of great words. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
This is amazing to be here. I haven't been here yet. Coming to see this space on the west side. This is amazing. Yeah,
it's beautiful here.
It is.
Makes me just want to live here all day and be in this studio. And this is my happy place.
As long as our clients can't find us, it's perfect. Oh.
Yeah. So, welcome to Real Producers, and I cannot wait to ask you some questions today. And so one of the things that I want to start with is, obviously, you've had an amazing career as a photographer. You weren't always a photographer. So I want to ask you a little bit about what you did before photography, and then what in the world inspired you to get into photography, and then tell everybody how long you have been a photographer.
Yeah, it's a great question. And most people don't know this when they come visit with me. So the first thing that I did is I have an electrical engineering degree. And so back when I got that degree, there was no intention of ever being an engineer long-term. Longer story to that. We'll avoid that for the moment. But my plan was to always be in sales, always to have some ability to be in a sales role, because my dad was in sales, and I thought that was a good way to make money. So that that education then allowed me the opportunity to go into a sales role in semiconductors, sold silicon wafers to chip manufacturers. Then in the late 90s, when money was free, I worked in the telecom space and sold test equipment to telephone providers. And then 9/11 happened, the whole world fell apart, right? And so as sales guys, you lose your job from time to time. And I ended up, for the last part of that career, being a consultant, helping executives and frontline sales organizations learn how to build better relationships with their clients, how to help solve their clients' goals, problems, and needs, and help be a collaborative partner with them. Mm-hmm. And only then did they see revenue coming back to them as a sales organization. So we flipped the script for most sales organizations on its head and said, you got to help your client first before they're ever going to give you revenue. Quit talking about product and price. And then 2008, its economy happened. We all remember that. 3/4 of the people lost their jobs, and people were scrambling to figure out what to do in that economy. I'd kind of had it. I'd kind of had enough of corporate America, although I still needed to work. I still needed to have a job. And so what I ended up doing was continuing to look for that next sales job. And I was a hobbyist photographer. I always had a camera in my hand from the end of high school on. It was just something I loved to do. It kind of fit my technical brain.
What did you photograph the most?
Well, as everybody does, they do a lot of landscapes, they do a lot of buildings, and then you start photographing people. And I started to do a few small events, a few small portraits as my interest in photography took hold. And I started just to learn how to light, how to do certain things, but nothing professional, right? And I had a very good friend of mine who was a marketing person, say, you should build a photography business. And I looked at her with three heads, and I'm like, no, there's no. Back when we were in school, photography is an art form. It fits in the arts degree. Nobody makes money doing artwork, right? So there's no money in that. There's no way that's successful. Well, sure enough, when you're not making money, you got to figure out what to do. And so I started a logo, my logo today, at the end of 2008, early 2009, almost immediately after I lost my job, to dabble. It was the holiday season. I had nothing better to do because there was no jobs available at that point. Mm-hmm. And all throughout 2009, as I'm interviewing and looking for that next sales opportunity, I was dabbling in the world of photography, thinking it'd be a weekend job. Well, at the end of 2009, when there was no real job out there anymore, or at least at that given time, I looked at my wife and I said, hang on. I think we're going to go make a go of this. And I put my shoulder down and went for it. And
by the way, what does your logo mean? It's a tree.
It is a tree. So it's Scott Peak Photography. I don't know if you can see it. We'll come up just a little bit on this camera here. Look at that. So the tree signifies that our role is to capture the family experience. Now, that family experience means something. It means more than just capturing snapshots. We want every family, every client of ours to come and experience portraits, not just take pictures. Mm-hmm. And so that's storytelling. We'll get into that in just a second as I tell that story. To finish off this piece, though, of how did I get this business started, I never, ever, ever realized back when I got my degree and back when I started in sales, I never had a dream of owning my own business. It actually scared me. I was like, there's no way. That's for people that are really true entrepreneurs. But when you have a pretty decent business background like I had for 20 years and all the technical and process know-how of kind of that engineering mindset, those two things were able to launch me and get me started. And then, the rocky road of business ownership over the last 16 years has proven to be successful with a lot of hard work and a lot of, trial and error with any small business owner.
So what's been one of your biggest challenges in being an entrepreneur and a business owner?
Well, for a while, it was simply, just like most photographers, being a solopreneur, being somebody that everything fell on you. And so as you're growing your business, you've got to prospect, you've got to find clients, you've got to convince them to come take pictures with you, you've got to, set your pricing, all the things to make money and then profit on the back end. And then photographing, editing, delivering products, everything fell on me. And I did okay. I did pretty well for a few years and for a number of years actually, and ran a studio out of my home and did a lot of on-location stuff. There was a gentleman back in 2009 that sat next to me on an airplane as I handed him my first business card as a photographer. I had no clients yet. I was super excited. He said, "What are you going to do when you run out of time?" I said, "What do you mean?" Of course, I had all the time in the world at that point. I had no clients. Everything was new. It was perfect. I was off and running. He said, "No, what are you going to do when you run out of time?" And my brain kicked into gear for a second. I said, "Well, at that point, when that point happens, I will grow the team." So the biggest challenge is and continues to be finding people that are as passionate about client experiences as I am and growing your team. And I have a couple of folks that work for us now that are a studio manager and a client success manager. And then we bring in contract photographers from time to time when we need them for big jobs. But it's still finding that person who really wants to work, who really enjoys working with people and building relationships and not worrying about the photography side. That's the biggest challenge. And it's finding those right folks that really want to make that time investment.
Yes. It's got to be the right people. And like you said, it's got to be the right people that have the same passion that you have and have the same drive, the same vision, all those things. People. It's
That's
the
right.
people. And then, of course, I can imagine with the right people, then you can scale and you can do other things other than be the all-in-one person running the whole show all the time.
That's right.
So talk to me about one of your most favorite people that you've ever photographed and why that person.
Are you baiting me to say you, Julie? Is that what you're saying? Is that you're baiting me to say
No,
you
but
because I photographed
why?
you? Is that's what it is? She's wanting me to talk about how great she is. No, I know it is. So that's a really good question, actually. There's different genres of photography. So there are various people that I have done professional headshots and branding for, and those are fun sessions when the people really want more than just that one picture that goes on LinkedIn. And so there's a number of people that I can talk about from that perspective. Those are shorter sessions, right? Because it's you need a headshot, you need some branding images, and then that's it, right? The person that loves those sessions the most are the ones that are most surprised when they walk in and they realize it's more than one headshot. In fact, the most surprising clients for me are the ones that we get different facial expressions. And I'm not talking goofy facial, like small, subtle things. A smirk versus a smile, an eye squinch versus, wide open eyes, the little nose wrinkle that happens when somebody laughs, right? All of those little intricacies of somebody's face we try to coach for. And what surprises them the most is when they come in for that one headshot and they walk away with 5 to 10 that look very similar because it's the same pose, same outfit, but very different faces. And they end up buying 10 images, which is surprising to them, not surprising to me. On the family side, the most favorite client is the one that really, truly appreciates what we can do in their storytelling moments. So why capture family experience is so important. There are millions of photographers out there that'll run a mini session, run a park session, 15 minutes, give you 50 JPEGs, $250, right? And there's tons of folks that do that. We want to make sure that folks have lifelong memories that don't just live in their phones. We want folks to understand what it means to have wall art on their wall that may depict an individual story. So as an example, let's say you have 3 daughters, and at some point in your life, you have 3 daughters who at one point are at 3 stages of their life: high school, college, and working. So in my studio, I've got a collection of images right now of that exact scenario, and we captured those 3 girls in a moment in a studio and caught the camaraderie that they still have, the bond they still have as sisters, but they're still at 3 different stages of life. One is working for the first time, one is just going to college, and one is still in high school.
Right.
And you can tell that there's a difference between them, but there's still a sameness as sisters to them. And so that particular collection was important for Mom because we were able to capture that spirit of those 3 girls for the first time in their life being 3 different scenarios. And then that lives on the wall as a collage of portraits. So every time Mom wakes up and goes out and looks at that wall portrait series in her home, she doesn't just remember the memories of what they were from the past. She remembers the story that she told me prior to the session of what it meant for her to see those 3 girls connected in that unique way. That's the difference of the best client that we have, is somebody who really understands and embraces that philosophy and comes in and wants the storytelling moments on their walls.
I could imagine that would be fun. And then just people that have art. Like I could imagine you standing there photographing somebody holding a guitar, who's a musician, who's also an artist, but different sorts, or photographing somebody who's a painter or whatever. It's lifestyle. It's what they are and who they are in that moment. And I can imagine those are beautiful.
It is.
Beautiful memories and beautiful photographs. So what about the most favorite place in the DFW Metroplex? And who knows, you might have been halfway across the world somewhere and had a favorite place, but I want to hear about your most favorite place that you have ever photographed and why.
Interestingly enough, it was not in the United States, and I wasn't a professional photographer yet. I had an opportunity with the last job that I have, the consulting job, to go to Tunis, Tunisia, in the northern part of Africa before it fell years ago. This was probably over 20 years ago. Now, of course, as a guy with a camera in my hand, I always took a camera wherever I went. And long story, we were running a session for a very large organization and training folks from all across Europe, Middle East, and Africa in 5 different languages. We just happened to have about a half a day during that trip for sightseeing. So we took about 4 or 5 of us, and then there was some other folks from other countries. So 4 or 5 of us hired a guide to literally take us to some of the places in Tunis, Tunisia. And then after that, we kind of wandered from the main small little town up high to the point that we were out of the town and now looking across the Mediterranean Sea.
Wow.
Right?
Beautiful.
We're at the top of this hill, and all of a sudden we turn around, and we're not far. We're just up the hill from the little city. I see this old man walking, a local, with all of the traditional clothes on with a cane, very old man walking up the hill like this. And the hill was pretty steep. And I walked over to him and I gestured, because he didn't understand English, gestured if I could take his photo, because what I saw behind him was all the traditional Mediterranean walls and tiles and things and these doors behind him. And I didn't have a flash, I didn't have light. The light was perfect hitting him. And I offered a few coins and he said no. And he stood there and just kind of with sandals on and just kind of dug the ground with his cane as I was taking a few shots of him. Just a street shot, just something normal, right? And then as we went back down the hill, I got all of the pottery and the blue and the white pottery as pictures and many different scenes in that little town. Again, wasn't a professional. Some of those portraits, believe it or not, 20 years later, still hang in our home as some of the most favorite pictures I've ever taken, and it just was happenstance. It was just one of those moments, right? Again, something that was just casual, that just happened in front of me rather than something that was planned.
I have one of those moments.
Did I take that picture?
You did not. You did not. So actually in high school, I dabbled in photography only because in high school, you know how you take electives. Well, I happened to go to the Booker T. Washington School of the Arts. I was a concert pianist at that time. And so one of my electives was like, I don't even know, photography 101. Okay. But actually, I wound up loving it and got a professional. I think at the time it might have been, what was it, a Ricoh or a Nikon, something like that camera.
Yeah, Ricoh or Nikon.
Which actually wound up getting stolen. That's a whole nother story. But I used to leave school. I'm not going to get in trouble for it now, but I would leave school in the middle of the day during the lunch hour and go shoot things around the downtown area. So one time I'm getting out of my car and this station wagon pulls up next to me and this family bails out. And they were not from the U.S. I don't know where they were from. And we didn't speak a word to one another. So it looked like either they were a Spanish family or somewhere from South America or something like that. But this little girl bails out of the car and she stares at me and puts her finger in her mouth. And I snapped the camera. Well, then I get that back to the dark room. Remember the dark room, right? Where you're developing film. And I get it back and I look at it and I'm like, this is an amazing photo. It literally looked like it was a National Geographic photo. And so back then it was, black and white photo was the most dramatic. And so I hand bleached out the collar with a little bit of solution, made the colors really stark, and I entered it into a photography, competition at the high school. And I won.
No.
I won.
Wow.
And I was like, and everybody else had this planned, just what you were talking about, these planned photos of all these, elaborate art, beautiful, beautiful pieces. But it was the raw authenticity of just capturing a moment. And she just turned and looked at me with that innocent, and this little girl was probably 5. So I still have this photo today in my closet in a special box, just because the moment was special. Right. She was special. And the story, the picture told a story of 1,000 words that you didn't have to say.
Right. That's very true. You reminded me of something as you said that, as we're thinking about what today means, right? Today in our world today, what we're dealing with, everybody's on social media. Everybody has to have content. Everybody has to have imagery. And it seems to be this competition all the time of what's the prettiest picture you can make? What Instagram filter is hot for today, right? And what we find as photographers is this chasm between fighting the social media world versus true authenticity. Mm-hmm. And so the big buzzword of right now, it's happened in the last year really, is these AI headshots that are out there. Mm-hmm. Everybody's seen them. Everybody's tried them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're like, oh, that looks good enough because it's cheap and or free, right? Here's the difference though. The difference is what you just described. It's how do we capture the moment that nobody else sees? How do we capture the little facial quirk that you and only you make when you're thinking hard about something? How do we capture what I call the nose crinkle when you laugh just a little bit harder than you should, right? How do I capture the mouth position? And that's what we as photographers have to do. And I call myself in the headshot world a facial expression coach because that's an opposing coach. But that's what my job is.
Crinkle your nose.
Well, no, I don't tell you to crinkle your nose because if I ask you to do it, you won't.
No,
but if I ask you,
how.
But if I ask you to giggle, you'll giggle. Mm-hmm. If in the middle of concentrating on how to get you to pose, I tell you to turn your nose to the Reunion Tower and you start thinking about where that is, there's some facial expressions that happen in there that you don't even know you're doing, and we capture those, right? So it's these small little things that make a headshot photo specifically, more authentic than anything AI will ever be able to do. Well, and I think that most people aren't thinking that way. They think a picture's just a picture. A headshot's just a headshot. That's good enough. Mm-hmm. And my comment to that is, what perception are you as an individual and a business owner what perception are you trying to give to your clients when they see your picture for the first time? Is it perfection through AI and Instagram, or is it this authentic self who's somebody who's very humorous and not always serious all the time, but still professional? So there's these chasms that we're playing against right now in the world of photography that's fighting against what social media is trying to tell us to do.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. But I do think there is more of an awareness now, because when I sit and interview people and I'm talking to people about camera, being on camera, having camera confidence, positioning them as subject matter experts in their particular industries, more and more often I'm hearing about people saying to me, I want to show up and be authentic. And this is the word they're using, authentic on camera, because I think all of us are a little tired of the whole AI thing already. And we're just at the beginning.
Hadn't even started.
Public facing, we're just at the beginning. AI has been around a long time.
Right.
But so I think the more that we move into this, the more we just want to connect with people. We want to feel like that person, whoever that person is relatable, because at the end of the day, that's who we want to do business with, people that we know, like, and trust. And we've heard that over and over. We don't want this fake plastic AI person that we're looking at, or AI person on the other side of the camera. And then you get in front of whomever and you're like, wow, you don't look anything like that. You don't sound anything like that. Oh, trust me, I wish I could do some AI on my voice, because I don't have that. What commercial was it? Country Crock Butter. It was the butter. It's the female who's got this delicious, deep, beautiful, sexy voice. And when I got started in broadcasting, I sounded just like this. And I didn't know it until I hit play and record one day off the television, trying to train myself how to sound newsy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I sounded
little country girl.
So Southern. We have to fix that right away. So I had to study from the greats how to pronounce one single word so that it didn't sound so twangy. And then, of course, had to teach myself how to stand on camera, how to hold my hands and everything else. But people, they don't want the fake, an authentic person on the other side of the camera. So yes, there's a trend. We all listen. At the end of the day, we all want to see ourselves beautiful and perfect, and our eyebrows fixed, and our face is perfectly aligned, and all that, because we see so much natural, I think, perfection on social media. Without the whole AI, you're like, gosh, well, I'm never going to look like her. I'm never going to look like him, and that causes a whole nother set of insecurities in and of themselves. But back to your point, yes, it's a thing, but I'm also hearing people kind of push back on that a little bit. Like, hey, I just want to show up and be authentic, is what they are saying. I want to be authentic on the other side of the camera. Mm-hmm. So, and you're great at capturing the moments, and you've coached me through some photo sessions before, and I've loved your photos.
Well, you're very easy to photograph.
Still get a lot.
Look at her; she's so easy to photograph. See this?
Still get a lot of compliments on my hot pink shirt photo. But anyway, you do an amazing job doing that.
Thank you.
So, tell me your favorite part about what you do every day.
It's giving confidence to people. So I'll say this: every single client that walks in the door every day, whether I'm going to them or they're coming to me, I have three things that they say to me. Typically, it's in the genre of three things they say to me. Number one says, I don't like taking pictures. So that's the first thing. People just don't like having their picture taken when it's more professional, right? Casuals all day, selfies, those are easy, right? The second thing they say is, oh, you got to fix this. I'm too heavy. I got these wrinkles. You got to do this. My hair's this. You got to fix all this, is what I say. Okay, that's the second thing. And then the third thing some people say is, yeah, I don't want to really do this. So imagine me in my job every single day. I have to figure out, okay, I have clients that walk in that don't want to have their picture taken, that don't like the way they look, and they don't really want to be there. Oh, awesome. What a great career I have. Yeah, this is an awesome career, right? So my job is to, whether it's a family session, whether it's a high school senior, believe it or not, high school seniors have these fears. They really do. They're taking pictures of themselves all day, every day. But now somebody's doing it for real.
Right.
And they're scared.
It's not a selfie.
It's not a selfie. And so what I try to do, and the best thing I can do for somebody, is to give them the confidence that it's okay to be on that side of the camera, and we're going to make you look your best, not just with the shutter click, but with the angles, the lighting, the posing, the coaching, the facial expressions. And if there's a miss or a blemish or something, we could fix a few things in Photoshop.
We can erase things.
We can fix a few things in Photoshop. We don't want to just change your entire body shape because of it, which is,
we don't want to make you fake.
It's humanly possible. But we want to make sure they feel confident and alive and in love with the photos. And that's not me telling them to smile. That's me telling them a joke. That's me self-deprecating on me. My biggest joke is, and it's not really a joke because it's right here. People will walk in and they'll have a beautiful head of hair. I'm like, gosh, you were so blessed because I got nothing. I got nothing left. And then immediately they start giggling because, it happens, right? But my job is to really help folks walk out of there confident, appreciative, hopefully having the best experience they've ever had in whatever genre of photography they've had, to the point that they loved the experience so much they want to tell all their friends. Mm-hmm. And then eventually pay me a few dollars for it as well, right? That's the whole goal, is they love it so much, they'll pay anything to have that same experience again. So it's not just about the pictures. Anybody can take a picture. Everybody's got a cell phone today. Mm-hmm. It's about the experience and what we can do to transform that person from being shy, meek, and afraid to super confident and loving the experience and seeing themselves in a very different light, photography-wise, than they've ever seen themselves. Mm-hmm. That's what I love to do every day. I encounter that
exact same thing with people on video. They tell me they don't like the way that they sound, they don't like the way that they look, and when that camera light comes on, they just freeze like a deer in the headlights. Right. And then they also have this fear and this criticism that's very real to them of what other people are going to think when, once it's pushed out into the real world. So I have to do a little bit of mindset reset. But you know what? One of the things that I loved about you is just the authenticity of the session and feeling warm and comfortable. And you said something funny that I will never forget, because I was saying to you something about my eyes, which has bothered me for a very long time, as long as I became aware of it, noticed it. And that is, this eye is smaller than the other eye. Okay, that's not uncommon. But this eyebrow is lower than the other eyebrow. The whole side of my face sits lower than the other. And so you said, you want to see what really trips models out? and you literally clicked a button and my eyebrow went boop, and it opened up and it was the same size. It was like level on my face. And I was like, this is magic. This is magic. And I wish that it could be like that all the time. I guess it could if I wanted to spend money on surgery, but I don't. But I love that it was just the small thing that I was like, this is great.
It's a small tweak in Photoshop.
For once in my life, I've got this evenness going on in my face. But most of us don't like ourselves on camera because it's a mirror of the imperfection on the outside. And we can have imperfections all day long on the inside, right? But not everybody sees those things. You go photographing or doing video on somebody externally, and you see all the imperfections. And here's the thing: you see them. Not one single person ever has said to me, Julie, did you know that one of your eyebrows is lower than the other eyebrow and one of your eyes is smaller than the other?
Well, now they can do that because you've just told the world.
I just told the whole world.
So everybody can now point and laugh every time they see you. They're like, oh my gosh, your eyebrow's lower.
You are not as perfect as I thought you were. But yes, I think that's why so many people just get hung up on that. And nobody is going to point that out. And so I say to my clients, you know what, if you do get a hater or a troller or something out there on social media, look, you have all the power in your little finger just to hit delete. And of course, your clients have the opportunity to share their photos or not to share their photos. But if they're working with you, I know that you're going to make them look spectacular. And there is such thing as Photoshop. We can do little tweaks and yet still look like ourselves. And that's one of the things that I appreciated about you, as you said, I don't want to do too many things to your photo because I still want you to look like you, look like yourself. And right. I said, great. Do as much as possible and make me look as natural as I can.
That's right.
And still myself.
And still take off 10 pounds and still fix that eyebrow and fix my hair over here and this. Yeah. Every client says the same thing.
Yeah. And whiten the teeth.
Every client says the same thing. And it's okay. But, our job is to, here's what I tell clients. My job is to, have you look the way that I see you in person when I'm glancing at you, different than looking at a screen or a photo and studying every nook and cranny in it, because nobody ever does that.
No.
They look at your eyes, they look at your mouth, they look at your nose, and they look there, but they're not going to study the cheekbone and that hair on your eyebrow and this and that. But we do when we look at our own pictures. We study every mole to make sure it looks perfect. Nobody ever does that. No. Nobody. And half the people are blind, so they see you in a fuzzy way anyway. So, right?
Oh, I love this. Maybe I don't want 20/20 vision, which I've, been praying into. But anyway, well, we are just about out of time. But before we wrap up, Scott, any last words you want to say about what you do and kind of like future for Scott Peak and your photography business? We
still see growth in the industry. We still see And the reason we see growth in the industry isn't just the headshot world. I mean, we do a phenomenal way in helping people with their headshots and their branding portfolio that people really, truly need to make an investment in, rather than just get somebody who's the knockoff price for the day to get something school photo type portrait. That's one thing. But the other thing is our growth is really in those stories. The growth is getting families, agents, people who run businesses to tell their unique story, so that when we can engage with them, it's not just about the family of 4, 5, 6, or 7 in that Christmas card photo that gets printed on a Christmas card, sent to their relatives, and promptly thrown away in January. That's what family photography has become, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. We want folks to call us, let us have a discovery call with them. Let them tell us what love and connection from the wife's perspective looks like to the husband. What's it look like today? What did it look like when you first met? Tell me the most special moment between daddy and daughter. What is it that they're doing when you watch them from across the room? Tell me that feeling that you have when you see them doing their thing. And what do you think the daughter's thinking about when she looks up in dad's eyes? Tell us that story. And then let us capture that particular moment and put it on the wall, mm-hmm. so that you could relive that story that you've just told me, and you don't tell anybody else, mm-hmm. really. It's not something you're just going to exclaim to the world. But let's capture that moment so that you could look at that story and remember the love and connection at that moment in time, and then future stories as well. People think that family photography is one photo, once a year, on a Christmas card. Whereas our best clients come to us for a wall portrait series of that daughter, that son, mom and dad over here, the mom and son moment over here, the dad and daughter moment over here. And oh, by the way, we've got a pet. Pet needs its.
Oh, the pets have to be in there.
Of course.
They're part of the family.
That's the difference, yes, of where we're headed, is finding a way to get families to engage for lifestyle portraits within their home.
Mm-hmm. So how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they could find me online. Of course, my name's Scott Peak, so it's Scott Peak Photography. We're over studios 1 block south of the Galleria Mall. Everybody knows where that is.
Yes.
And we travel all over the Metroplex for folks that want to do on-location stuff as well. Whether it's headshots and branding, whether it's a corporate or nonprofit event or holiday party, which we're engaged with a lot right now at the holiday season, or family, children, grandparent, or generational portraiture. This is what we do for a living, and how we can help you tell your unique story.
Mm-hmm. You have a beautiful studio too.
Thank you so much.
You recently renovated it, like in the last couple of years.
Yeah, 2 years ago we expanded, actually, is what we did, and had another soft grand opening for all the artwork that's up on the walls.
Yeah,
so.
Which is beautiful. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it's hard being on this side of the camera, but so I know that you guys will do all the things that I do in Photoshop to make me look pretty.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We'll even put hair on you if you
like.
Wow,
that's amazing. Can I pick the color? That's
I don't think we're that magical, but I wish we were. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. And Scott, we really do appreciate you being here. I'm Julie Altimus with Real Producers Magazine, coming to you live in Colleyville from Studio USA. And until next time, we meet again. We will be back very soon with another top agent in the DFW Metroplex and top vetted business partner.